You want it? You got it. We've got things you might not have heard coming to you for this Thursday, September edition. Let's see if I can stop that from happening. That was close. I'm Jay Cleveland Payne, bringing you a batch of stories. I think it's like 12 stories. I had a hard time killing stories. I got to get back on the pithy part, but we had a hard time killing stories because we had a lot of stuff. Remember yesterday we had a whole lot of Trump. Today we got a whole lot of Putin. We just kind of could not get Putin out of the way. So we're gonna, give Putin the love he doesn't deserve, at least the attention he doesn't deserve, and go with that. But we have a bunch of other stories that are just as important, just as interesting, and some just as weird and kooky that you probably ought to hear about that did not get covered in your regular newscast. Now we call this thing here. You're listening to it via audio for podcast version or watching the actual video of it, a tertiary news source, your news eyepiece, if you will. Pardon for the cough, but it is very obvious of the way I look for my news, as I do get a bunch of different newsletters and skim through for different things, how different places portray the news out there that seems to be relevant and important to their audience. Not all newsletters are created equal, and this one, this cast is also as well. So we pull from a bunch of different places. Hope that the ones that we pull, hope the stories we have for you are ones that you find interesting and engaging. You let us know exactly how that works. Now, you let us know how it works because you actually vote in the interesting, engaging stories. But then we pick from a batch of those, so we don't do them all, obviously, to get you a good batch of stories. Party from the rambles. Let's get into the big stories today. Like I said, a lot of Putin today, so we're just gonna have to deal with that one. Let's start off with story number one, and this was a top story in engagement, coming down, breaking in the late afternoon, taking us a little while to actually get this on the air inside the feeds. Ginni Thomas to meet with House committee investigating January 6th riot. Ginni Thomas has negotiated a way to meet with the investigative committee. Now, she will not be on any prime time type of program, but she will interview with the committee sometime soon. We will see, or hear at least, a little bit more of what kind of, I'm going to say it, bonkers was going on in Ginni Thomas's mind, and what kind of plotting was going on with her and her connections on the Washington scene. Ginni Thomas, while one being married to Chief Justice, or not Chief Justice, but a Justice, long-term Justice, he may be the longest-serving Justice at this point, Clarence Thomas, and being just connected in general to various places, has some pull with things, people in sway in Washington D.C., and has some national politic juice. And we saw a bit of it in some things that she has done, and some of the things that may have been done regarding January 6th itself. Let's see how this plays out. Let's see if she takes this for serious, takes this for a joke, and whether there is any actual punishment towards her. Doubts that there will be. Now, the Arizona State University staff is accused of leaking intel in order to get Herm Edwards fired. We teased this story. You decided it was good enough to deal with, so we're going to deal with it very quickly right now. Herm Edwards is a head football coach, former head football coach in the NFL, had some issues there, found his way back into the college ranks after a little time on TV. That's how you do it. Doing fairly well at Arizona State until recently, and until specifically a game a few weeks ago where they got blowed out by a team they brought in to basically pay him a paycheck and be a cupcake, and they got cupcaked by them, or pancaked to be exact. Now, what we're hearing is there's not so much happy life in the family, and there actually were people on his staff that leaked basically their game plans to the other team so they could win bigly and get Herm Edwards fired. Investigation is in way. We will see whether this picks up more steam or whether this one will get buried like they're trying to bury Herm Edwards at Arizona State. See what I did there. Let's go on to the story. This one brought lots of joy and lots of giggles to many folks. Original Beverly Hills Cop cast Judge Reinhold, John Ashton, Paul Reiser, and Bronson Pinchot returning to Netflix Axel Foley movie. The new Beverly Hills 4 Axel Foley is coming. It is coming to Netflix. It is starring Axel Foley and his son of Axel. It's essentially going back to the pilot of the show they're going to do. That was a movie that went to idea to be on CBS, and now it's back to a movie. And Axel Foley is back in his Detroit Lions jacket with basically the whole gang around. Everyone but the original chief, because he passed away sometime after Beverly Hills 2 was made. But we got the two cops he partnered up with, Paul Reiser, his partner in New York City, and Bronson Pinchot, Surge, are all back for another round with Axel Foley. This thing is probably going to be a train wreck, but, Netflix is going to make a whole lot of money and get a whole lot of eyeballs from this one. Guaranteed. I'm watching it 3 times just because it's on 3 different screens, just because. Now, a whole lot of Putin. We put them on 3 slides. It's a little hard to read for the eyeballs, but here are 3 stories Putin related, or Russia Putin related, if you will. Putin orders partial military call-up, sparking protests. Because the Russians are running low on troops, we've talked about earlier that Putin was going to call up people, just regular folks, more or less like a draft or a reservist, like, hey, you on the street, you're going to the front line type of deal. That happened. It wasn't a full call up. It wasn't like every available man is going to Ukraine, but a good number of available men out there are going to Ukraine. So what happened? Protests are happening, and there's been plenty of arrests in those protests. People are, in story number 2, getting flights out of Russia to get the hell out of Dodge so that they can't call them up for these war things. The only other way to get out of it is to literally not be there, and I'm not sure what actual jurisdiction there is to bring them back, what punishment there will be once they have to come back, because these people are just letting take it. Oh, let's go on vacay so I can't get called up to the military this week. That's essentially what's happening here. Oh, by the way, Russia released 2 Americans captured in fighting Ukraine. They actually released a lot of folks. There's actually a major exchange between the general who is who Putin is the godfather of her daughter, and about 100 troops that were captured in that battle in the factory in Ukraine. And 2 other people in that returned are Americans that were captured in Ukraine. So we are glad to have them uncaptured. We're glad that all the families are back. Not so happy about the guy going back to Russia, but it is what it is. One for many, if you will. And we'll see how long it takes for all these people to literally get back on the front lines, because the war isn't over. We don't have the story here about the places that they did overtake, the places they did not give up, saying they want to be annexed by Russia just because Russia does that to people. We're going to see how those votes come out, because basically, if you're being occupied by some place, you're probably going to be more liable to vote for be annexed by that place. And that's probably what's going to happen in the next few weeks. We will see what happens. Russia's also doing a couple things to stall their stance and trying to make sure they are still in there, to pull away from make sure their withdrawal is a little slower so they have more leverage in the area. You may think that this Russia thing is drawn out too long. You may think this Russia thing is not our problem. You might even think it's a hoax because someone says Russia things are hoaxes. It is not. And what we're very glad about, the collective we, me specifically, is that this is a battle that's happening without we troops, our boys out there officially, and not over here. Number 2, we're not dealing with this aggression over here in our states, and the people fighting them are them. They're not us joining in to fight for them. 2 great things and plans. Now, we have all the love and support we have for Ukraine and all the, defiance we have to push back on Russian aggression. But at the same time, it's a good thing that the people that they just released were Americans who just went over there to just kind of join the fight, and not American troops officially in the fight. That would not be a good thing at all at this time. Let's move on to this one story here. And it's been updated a couple times over there. Yesterday, we posted that Tiffany Haddish reached a settlement to basically get some of the pictures, get some of the details out of the public from this case. Now, the full case has been dismissed. The Jane Doe speaks out about what happened. Tiffany Haddish and Aries Spears are now off the hook, if you will, for the actual trial. But what they are on is this thing has lived on in the media, and people will judge them for quite some time. Read the article and check out what the Jane Doe has to say about the entire thing and the dismissal of the suit, because it's pretty important. We want to make sure that all people feel that they're being attacked, that they're being wronged, if they're being abused, they have a voice to basically let that out and be heard. However, this is a case that has been basically thrown out by the court. It is dismissed. It's done. So the case is done. But the public opinion court, obviously, we shall continue to judge going forward. It is what we do in the judging business, even if we're not in the judging business. Another officer in the George Floyd death has been sentenced. This time, Thomas Lane has been sentenced to 3 years of this happening here. You can go deeper into the story there, but there's more stuff going on in this one. It's taken a while for all these things to come about. You can call it justice or injustice at this point, but it's taken a while for all of these things to work themselves out. COVID was probably part of the problem, but justice, making sure justice is fulfilled and people get their fair shake is also, if you will, a part of the problem. To make sure that everything is done properly. Now, Byron Allen has a $10 billion discrimination suit against McDonald's for refusing to advertise on Black-owned media. This is going to move forward. This is one that's not going to be pushed back. McDonald's apparently is not advertising on Black-owned media, says Byron Allen. Now, McDonald's is always sponsors a bunch of stuff. When I was working in radio, they always sponsored the Essence Festival. They also sponsored big things for Black History Month. They always had all these special things that were minority based, and Hispanic American Month, things like that, minority based, but not necessarily being something that's like, on the media, like in the Black media so much. It was a bigger thing. There was, quote unquote, more Black media, more Black magazines, more Black shows. They did a lot of things in there. Now it's all sort of not as prolific as it is. And Byron Allen saying that he's not getting a cut for his media properties and some other ones, similar to his with McDonald's. We're going to see how this suit plays itself out. Do you think this is important? This is one that's important to me because I'm trying to bust back in the media. So this one may be one that I'm a bit biased about. But this is something that has deeper overtones overall. And maybe you care, maybe you don't. It was in range for things that you said were conversational. That's why I have a chance to talk about it. Robert Sarver announces intention to sell Phoenix Suns Mercury. Robert Sarver was sanctioned. He was fined. He was put out of the league for a year for the low-level basic thing is saying a bunch of racial slurs. The high level is just being a damn jerk. And now, because they can kind of push it, Sarver is looking to sell his stake in the Suns and the Mercury, mostly being pushed by the minority owners because they want to not deal with him and some of the players who don't want to deal with him either. A lot like what happened with the Clippers when their owner went a little nuts or a lot of nuts, and then the players are like, yeah, we can't work for this guy anymore. You got to get rid of him. And they got rid of him. The NBA and all leagues can find ways to push out people who are essentially doing really, really bad things. Not so much running bad teams or running teams in the market or just being dirty folks in general, but doing, the right bad things, if you will. Essentially, racism and rape. That's pretty much it. If they're just bad business people, that's not a real reason to get rid of them because they're still making business. But if they're being bad people, then yes, let's throw the book at them. So Robert Sarver going to be gone as the Suns owner probably fairly soon once they can get somebody to pull some money together. Maybe Shaq will buy it because he buys up everything. Comedian Jeff Garland reveals shocking bipolar diagnosis. Misconduct allegations forced him to leave the Goldbergs. Jeff Garland, the character from the Goldbergs, the patriarch, the man, the father, the daddy, is officially dead because he did really, really crappy things on set. Now what Jeff Garland, the actor, is saying is he has bipolar diagnosis, bipolar issues. Recently revealed that he was dealing with this stuff, and that's part of the reason why he was such a jerk on the set. Doesn't matter. The character's still dead, not coming back. The comedian, we'll see how well he can salvage his career. Chad Kroger from Nickelback says people have been mispronouncing his surname all this time. Check out the article, see how to actually say it if you care about Nickelback and Chad Kroger. That's the best I can do. Like I said, we had a hard time like carving stuff out here. This is one we probably should have left out, but there are a lot of people who love them some Nickelback, a lot of people who hate them some Nickelback. Guess what? This guy's saying it's not Chad Kroger, it's Chad. Click the link to see. That's the best tease I got for that one. Teaser for tomorrow, though. This is an interesting one for all the babies of the 80s, like myself, who remember the original Muppet Babies and loved them and want to fight like hell for people trying to take over Muppet Babies lore. There was a reboot of Muppet Babies in 2018. The original was 2006, I think, or 1986, I believe. Some different characters, different things, different network, different focus. Although it was still meant for younger children. This Muppet Babies was meant for a junior type set to teach actual stuff. The original Muppet Babies was purely comic relief and purely entertainment for 12-year-olds. Just reusing the Muppets and putting them in situations that were kind of weird. So what happened? The new Muppet Babies did something to cause a copyright suit. I'm taking way too long with this, of course. That nanny socks. It's still the same premise. There's a faceless voice and just the legs of a nanny, a person who's taking care of the Muppet Babies, but her socks change every single week. And that was how they were able to get around the copyright for Muppet Babies, because nanny's socks were the same every week back in the 80s. Now in 2018, we're changing her socks every week. So this is a different show. Disney was not able to dismiss this because Disney was like, well, we changed your socks. And they're like, nope. So this suit has to go forward. We're going to see how this one goes as it goes forward. And you can help us vote this up by being a part of the feeds. Liking, loving, hating, share it going forward. Excuse me. Good on time, but I guess I got some fall drainage going on, if you will. Stop by the Chess Store Inc. And this is conversationproject.com/the Chess Store. It's great to have my good friend, Miss Georgia, on watching live. She popped in live a little while ago, sending hello to all you folks out there, because she manages a chess club, actual chess players, kids. And one of the greatest things that would happen in our chess club, a 16-year-old kid who's been with the club since more or less the foundation of it over the past couple of years, is now the youngest grand champion in Arkansas history. He's 16 years old. He beat all the adults. He is the man, and he got some tutorage from some chess champions who came to our chess club, and mentorship by Miss Georgia, who shows us how wise she is, because she trained this guy like, the Karate Kid or something. Maybe not that settled, but you can go ahead and get your chess game on and get back into your chess life and chess world by stopping by this website, the Chess Store Inc., and getting great chess sets, wooden sets, metal sets, antique reproductions, and travel sets that aren't cheap and cheesy, but look great and will have a great deal on your game as well. Actually, you probably won't have that much great deal on your game, except for the actual pride you have in a good chess set and not a crappy chess set from the dollar store down the street. And they're unique, they're luxurious, they're a great price, and you should get one today. Check them out at this is a conversationproject.com/the Chess Store. Visit the Chess Store Incorporated. Get your chess game leveled up right now, or at least in about 5 minutes once we're done with the birthdays and all that stuff. So websites, let's get to the main website, which is this is a conversationproject.com, where you can find out all the deets on the Conversation Project. Find out more about how you can get these stories voted up by going to our Facebook and Twitter feeds on Facebook and Twitter. And as you see those stories, engage in them. And as you vote them up, if you will, they have a better chance of being talked about here on the show come next day. Today's Thursday, so the next 30 hours will be for Friday's show. Find us on TikTok at The Conversation Project. Go to our website, click the links for YouTube and the podcast, so you can get this thing. You get your reminder automatically when we go live at 5:50 on the YouTube when you subscribe, hit notifications. And if you just want to hear the yak without all the yak, sign up for the podcast. It's a trimmed up version of this thing here. It was released about 10-15 minutes after we're done on the video, and we're doing pretty good time today, so it'll be released pretty soon. Now let's get to the birthdays. So today, things always have birthdays for the 22nd, or birthdays for today happens to be the 22nd. Happy freaking birthday to Tony Basil, doing it old Mickey style. 79 years old for that old bag, who's kicking it like it's like still 1987. Tony Basil, of course, the singer, the great, iconic video, old Mickey, and just a dancing choreographer, still doing choreography at 79, big time choreography. And we are glad to have her out there. Also making it rock, Joan Jett, hitting 64 years old on the day today, and rocking in her own sense with a brand new episode today of She-Hulk. Attorney at law Tatiana Maslany, I always mess that one up, are turning 37 years old on the day. September 22nd is the first day of autumn. So this is now seasonal fall as opposed to weather fall. Weather fall was the calendar first day of September. It's fall because the calendar says September. The season, as in the days and whatnot, start with today and the first day of autumn. I get those confused. It doesn't really matter. Today is the first day of autumn. We actually picked that, so you can now say it's fall. Go ahead and pull out your pumpkin spice now. Or not, because it's terrible. One last thing going out of here. Let's talk about tipping fatigue. Tipping fatigue is hitting consumers as requests for gratuities, that word, increase and spread to normal non-tipping businesses. And automatic payments machines with preset tip suggestions are a big reason. In the worst of the pandemic, many of upped their tips, poorly written, for essential workers like restaurant staff and delivery drivers to recognize of the health risk they took and serve the people. Yet, with most pandemic restrictions lifted and inflation pushing up the cost of everything, some people are feeling uncomfortable with the pressure to tip more, including at business where tipping wasn't traditionally expected. Now, this is something that is being seen a lot of places, especially in places where your automatic money machine, your debit card, your credit card machine is basically asking it. So places like there was I actually had a debate with my boss, the radio host that was on a show in a decade ago, about tipping people at Sonic. It's like tipping, like you got to tip people at Sonic. Like you can't tip people at Sonic. I tried a few times and it was weird, and we just stop doing it because it's weird. Now Sonic has the thing on their app and now literally on the screen where you can hit a button and you can tip people directly. I'm okay with that. That I can do with. It works that way. When I go to get my haircut, I go to a chain hair salon, and there's a tip button there that makes they press there. I can do that. It's okay. I actually don't mind tipping. I like tipping fairly generously, if you will, but things do cost a lot more. There was a time early in the pandemic where I would go and get breakfast at a diner, and I get the $10 breakfast and just pay $20 on the ticket, literally 100% tip, because I saw someplace, you can feel really great about stuff like that. The problem was, as time progressed pretty quickly, that $10 breakfast turned to a $15 breakfast. And I wasn't tipping $15 on the tip in that case. So when everything is going up, when the cost of living is going up, the cost of things go up, that's where things get a little dicey for me particularly, and for the people out there. It's one thing to add extra tip to what was already going on. Inflation's making it cost so much more that hitting that general number, that 22% or so, gets a little harder, and people are getting a little tired of tipping. It is the truth. If you see me in a diner, I'm sorry, I'm probably not tipping 100% anymore, because my wife, she likes to eat, and we have to pay for the food. Today is Thursday, September 22, 2022. Hey, check that thing out. And we are glad to provide for you this here service. We think it's a service. We like to think it's a service. We think it's grand of here for things you might have heard. Thank you for joining us on the live feed. Both my wife, Christina with a K, who heard me talk about her liking to eat a lot, and I'm probably going to have to feed her tonight, and Miss Georgia, who also popped in live, and want to make sure another shout out for our sponsor this week, or most of the week this week, for the chess store. Check out thisisaconversationproject.com/the chess store for chess accessories. Also check out our main website, thisisaconversationproject.com, and you can find out more sponsors, more ways to partner up with us, and just more things behind the scenes going on. Make sure you are staying hydrated, staying on task, and staying limber for the things you have to do. So we wrap up this week on a grand week, if you will. And stop by the feeds. Make sure you vote up the stories that you want to see, you want to hear, you want me to talk about, because that's how it works out. Of the 15 stories that we had a chance to talk about, 11, 12, too many of them made it to the feeds today. We're going to start working on that. But there were, of course, about 18 stories that had no chance because they did not reach a threshold. Make sure the stories you want reach the threshold, not just the ones that the bots like, because the bot's going to bot. With that, let us bid our adieus for this Thursday and get ready for a grand wrap up on Friday.